Hello, and welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where in this video we are going to put some new tires on my Concours 14 here, because it's time to give it a little love, and we also need to change the tire monitoring system batteries. I replaced the monitoring system probably in about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. So anyway, when it gets cold, I get a warning on the dash saying the tire monitoring system isn't working, so it's time to put new batteries in it. Getting new tire monitors from Kawasaki requires you to get the monitors, and then they have to reprogram everything. We just want to put new batteries in it, bring it back to life. So we're going to show you how to do that. But first, we'll get this bike up in the air. We'll get the tire off of it. We got a brand new set of Pilot Road 6s to put on it. And when we do that, we will do the monitoring system. So enjoy the video. So the first thing we need to do is get this guy up in the air. And the best way to do that, I've got this little crank up jack I can stick underneath the bike and bring the front wheel up. So we'll do that. And we just get it as far forward as we can where it's not touching the fairings. And this is a pretty good device because it's nice and flat. We got a center stand, and the good part about this jack is it's not hydraulic, so it won't leak down. It brings the bike up very easily, and we are rock solid here. So first things first is we've got some 6mm clamp bolts that we'll get here. And then what we're going to need is a 22mm so to use that, we've got this guy right here. I've got a set of front axle pieces, but I like to use this guy to snap on, and it works extremely well. And what you want to do is kind of shock it a little bit so that you're not just twisting on it. But now, okay, so we got that loose. And now what we want to do is we're going to take our 6mm and we are going to pop loose the brakes. You can't get the wheel out without removing the calipers. So we'll do that. We get all 4 of them there, and then we'll get them off with an impact that makes it a little faster to go. We'll grab our impact, and we'll just wind these guys off real quickly. And then what I like to do is I like to twist these a little bit before I take them off. And what that does is it spreads out the pads a little bit and makes them easier to get back on. Again, give them a bit of a twist in both directions, and they just fall right off. They're good. So that's good. Now we can go back and we can get our axle out. Now we can loosen up the other side. We loosened up one side. Make sure you can see what's going on here. And we loosened up one side, now we loosen up the other side, and this way we can get the axle out. Nice and loose. You got to make sure you loosen up both of them, because once you loosen one, the other one has a tendency to get tighter. And we need to do that here. Make sure both of them are loose. They are. And now we can just unwind this guy. Okay, there's that. Now we can go on ahead and we'll just grab this, and we can use this in a little bit of a bind, and we can wind this guy out. Just kind of put a little side pressure on it, and we can kind of pull, and that'll give you at least where you can grab onto the axle and get it out of there, maybe. Yeah. And underneath, and there we go. Okay, so the axle's out. Get all your parts kind of to the side so you're not having to go hunt them down and go to put things back together. And we can get the bike up in the air just a little bit more so we can get this front wheel out from underneath the fender. And again, this type of a jack works really, really well. Now we can turn the wheel to the side, and we should be able to get it out of there. If not, we'll pull the fender off. Now, and at the place we have to deal with the fender. That's okay. We'll do that. And this really isn't that hard. We'll just take this loose. And again, keeping your bolts all in one spot so you don't lose anything. And there's two more in there. We'll grab those 8mm. And now the fender's out of the way, and we can get this front tire off. And again, more parts. Make sure everything is in its good spot. And we will move over to the Rabaconda and get this tire off. Well, it seems that removing the tire, I filled up the SSD card, so it doesn't matter. We'll get to the Rabaconda tire removal on the rear tire. We got two to do, so not a big problem. So the next thing we need to do is I'm going to take a T30 Torx, T30 Torx, and just loosen up our monitoring system. And it just unscrews. There's a spring underneath it that holds it in place. And the one thing you need to do is it does point in a certain direction, so that's okay. We can do that. So we can leave the valve core stem in there, and then we can remove this guy. There's a spring and a cap, and we can put this, and we'll just leave this back on the bike for the moment. Or back on the wheel till we put the tire back on. But what we're after is this guy, because what we're going to be doing is we are going to go on ahead and replace the battery in this. I previously had bought some batteries a long time ago, and they're fine. They've been sitting in a box. They have a fairly good shelf life. But we will go on ahead and take this apart, unsolder the battery. And the batteries I got have got tabs on it, so it isn't too hard. I got them off of Amazon for, I don't know, not very much money. A lot less than one of these guys costs anyway. So we'll go on ahead And there's a little clip right here on the front, and then I believe it just kind of snaps out of place. And what we're going to do is we've got a little plastic tool that we can pry on this without breaking things. So, and I think there's some clips. Oh yeah, there's a clip on the inside also that you have to kind of get out of the way. And once you get that out of the way, the case can slide off. So it's a little fiddly. So we're going to go over to the bench. We'll go work on this, and we will continue on soldering in our battery. Okay, so the first thing that I had done a long time ago was to purchase some CR2032 with tabs 3-volt batteries. There's 10 of them in here, so, and the whole thing, I think these only cost like $8 or something like that. So these batteries are just nothing more than the 2032 batteries with 2 tabs on them. These particular tabs are kind of facing in the wrong direction, but that's all right. We can get around that. So let me pull this out. And what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to be removing this yellow insulation. And the reason for that is it doesn't fit in our monitoring system. So that's what this looks like. And then what we're going to end up doing here is I'm going to bend up one of these, and that's going to connect to one side. And then I'm going to take and solder a wire onto this to get to the other side. And I'll show you once we get inside this. So to get inside this, there's a couple things you have to do. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to heat this up just a little bit so I can remove the sticker, because there is a screw underneath here. And, well, I might be able to get at that screw without, let me see what I can do here, if I can find it. Now, let me heat this up a little bit, just enough to get it so we can move it. This heat gun is pretty powerful, so take a few seconds. And I'm going to try and get this label to pull it out of the way. These aren't really meant to be repaired, but life is what it is. And if you look underneath, we have a screw. And by heating it up, I didn't destroy the sticker. Okay, so I'm going to take a T10, and we will get this in here and undo this screw. And I use one of these little silicone mats. They work extremely well for working on stuff like this. So now the next thing we need to do is we're going to pull this loose a little bit. And there's a couple tabs in here that are a little finicky. And I'm going to use an X-Acto knife and see if I can't get it to, you got to kind of push on these things, and they're made to kind of, they're not really made to come apart, but if you work it right, you can get them. And you just kind of pull them out a little bit. And then there's another tab here, which takes a little bit of doing, but you can get them. Okay, and all right, so now what you need to do is we just need to pull this apart a little bit. And again, there it goes, just pops off. And it's really not in bad shape. But if you look inside, we've got the battery, and this is the positive side of the battery goes here, and the negative side of the battery goes here. So what we're going to end up having to do, we're going to unsolder these two guys, and that allows us to get the battery out. And then what we'll do is we'll put this in, we'll put this guy in to here, and then I'll make a wire that comes over to the other side. And to do that, to make that wire, all I have to do is we'll strip off a little bit of this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to solder that onto the negative side of this, and we're going to solder onto that tab. The tabs will hold solder. If you're trying to solder to the base of the battery, once you get enough heat in there, you can destroy the battery, and that's really, really bad. And it doesn't want to solder. They're kind of welded on there, and they got little spot welds on them. So what you want to do is get these tabs. These tabs you can solder to. So that's the best way to deal with it, is to solder onto the tabs. So what I do in this case is I'm going to bend this tab on the bottom. You can see that. I'm going to bend it to the right a little bit. And what that will do is allow me to solder onto it. There'll be a wire coming over, so this guy will kind of go this way. Now, the one thing I'm being very, very careful of is not to short this out. If you short these two together, the battery will die so quick you can't believe it. So the best thing to do here is we're going to lay this down here. I've got a soldering iron turned on. We've got our wire. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a little bit of flux, and you get these it's just soldering paste. It's soldering flux. It works fairly well. What doesn't work well is the plunger. It's really, really, really goofy. But anyway, so you put a little bit of soldering paste onto what you're going to solder. And the reason you want to do that, it really makes it easy to solder onto things with that. And then a little flux on here. And even though there is flux in your solder, this just works better. So the first thing we'll do is, my cord's not very long on the soldering station. I'm just going to put a little solder on this guy. And that's basically called tinning. I'm going to tin him, and I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. I'm going to put a little solder on it, and I'll just move the solder around here, and then I can hold against it if I can here, if I can get myself in a good position to do so. And now this is tinned nicely. All right, and now that those are both tinned, I can go on ahead and put our wire on. And let me, I'm going to move this where I can get at the right angle here. That way. Okay, so by tinning them, like I did, now I didn't have too much heat going through this. It has got a nice solid soldered connection. And then what we're going to do here is we're kind of going to look at this, and I'm going to figure where to bend this up a little bit. Right about there. I'll bend it up at a right angle. I'll cut it off and strip it. And then it'll end up going through the hole in the actual TPS sensor. I just need to get this stripped. And there we go. And it's stripped. So it's going to be something like that. This bends up like that, and it'll go through our sensor. So now we need to get this out of here, and he's just kind of captured. You got it's captured in there, and once we start pulling on it, the battery will come out and the whole system comes out. So now what we need to do is we need to get the solder off of these, and the way to do that is with a solder sucker. And I had it around here somewhere. Here it is. One of these. And what this does is it creates a vacuum. What you can do is you put it over something, you heat it up, and it creates a vacuum, and it pulls the solder out. Now, and it just has a little O-ring inside of it, and you hit it, and it'll create a little bit of a vacuum. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do here first is whenever you're trying to desolder something or something of that nature, go on ahead, and I'm going to move things over just a little bit. So not only can you see it a little better, but I have a little more room in my soldering iron. Okay, so now what we have here is we want to get the solder off of this. So whenever you're desoldering something, the best thing you do is press new solder in it. And the reason for that is solder has a tendency to, I don't know, get hard. And when it does, it is really hard for it to melt and flow. So when you add the new solder, it allows it to flow a little bit better. So now I can take this, once it melts, I can just go like this, and it pulls all the solder off of that. And we'll do the other side over here. Same thing. Let me get the thing in place. Pulls it. And now we should be able to, yeah, the battery's basically loose. We just had a little glue on it. Okay, good. So now let's make sure the hole is clear in here. A little hard to... Okay, and now both holes are clear. So now we have our battery, which we can now take our wire that we put through there, and we have this, and then we just kind of move things around, and that'll give us enough room to get this guy in place where we want it. And again, we got to be very careful not to short things out. These batteries do not like that. Okay, and it goes something like this. Just a little bit off to the side. I can push this down, get a little fresh solder in there. Nice fresh solder. And I'm going to push it down, make sure it's pushed down all the way. And we'll do this to the other side. Okay. All in place. Everything is nice and tight. Everything is soldered back into place. And all that we have to do is put this back together. And again, we do not want to short things out. Okay, the last thing you do before you put it back together is you get yourself a multimeter. Okay, and you make sure that you read 3 volts across these two. This one's a positive, this one's a negative, and we are reading 3.1 volts. Perfect. Okay, so now we're ready to go back together. That's basically it. We are done with that. We just need to take this guy, get these guys landing where they need to be, and it's can be a little fussy, but that's okay. One side goes in really easy, but the other side is, this side goes in real easy because it's normal, but the other side's got a wire on it, so you have to kind of deal with that. The battery slips in like that. You need to cut any excess off. And the good part is, if this thing doesn't fit together perfectly, it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, what we need to do is we just need to slide this back together like that. And that's the end of it. Except for put in a new screw and we're done. And it's just that simple. And instead of paying a lot of money to get these guys, get new ones, and then get it reprogrammed, we spent, it's probably, I'm going to say $1 for a battery, maybe a little less. Let me, these screws are a little hard to start. That's okay. It's just that it's so shallow that it really doesn't accept this very well. Not like a regular screw, but we got it. We will get it. And it screws in. Kinda. Get it to start here. My fingers. There we go. And we got it. Now I just need to screw it in. And again, this doesn't, the screw is really shallow and it's never meant to be, it's a kind of a one-time deal, but that's okay. And put your sticker over it that we didn't destroy, and we are back in business. So we'll take this over to the wheel, put it back on, put our new tire on, and we will be good to go. Okay, so now that we've got the new battery in our tire monitoring system put in, we'll just go on ahead, get it screwed down to where it's nice and tight, and this thing rolls around a little bit, but everything is good. So the next thing we're going to do is remount our tire. So I'm going to go put the tire out in the sun for a few minutes, and I'll come right back. On, and there we go. And it's taken out. And we just wait till both sides pop. Very good. Both are on. Now pull this loose, and we will go balance this thing. So we'll move over to the balancer. So now we're back, and we need to put the front tire back on, which is no big deal. But what we do want to do, and we got some disc brake good bearing grease, and what we want to do here is we've got these spacers, and we need to make sure they're clean. Okay. And what we want to do is put a little grease on our nut, and we'll put a little grease on the axle also. That way, no corrosion or any problems. Okay, all greased up, ready to go. And now we just need to put our tire in. Okay, first things first, put the tire underneath the fender. So the first thing you need to do, once you get things in there, let's see if we can get this to go in. Okay. Fender out of the way. Out of the way. We need to make sure everything is all good. What we're going to do is put in our spacers. And we'll put in both of those. Those are both in. And the way I do this is I just take my foot and I get it underneath and I roll it up. That allows me to manipulate this thing a little bit better and get the axle started. Once that's in, then I can go on ahead and get this lined up. Push the axle all the rest of the way in, maybe. This fender's being a little funny. Good. Axle's in. Just move it around until this thing can start. There it is. It started. And all we have to do is go on ahead and roll this in. But before we do that, what I think we'll do is we'll get our fender screwed in place so it's not interfering with us. So let's find the, get everything lined up here. And the easiest part is to get this one started. Okay. And that will allow us to get this guy started without too much issue. That was in. Now we can go on ahead and get the other side in. Started. We'll get this one started. And you just have to kind of move it around until you see where the okay, just kind of understand where you're going with it. Go down and it starts, and we can go on ahead and tighten these two up. Okay, now we can go on ahead, run this in. Okay, that's getting tight. It's snugged up, but it's not tight enough yet. But what we're going to do here is we're going to lower this down until so that the front tire is touching. And then we're just going to go on ahead and bounce this thing down a couple times. And the reason you do that is it just helps center the forks and the wheel and the forks. So now that they're centered, we can go on ahead and tighten down the axle side. And then we can tighten the axle itself. Not on the axle, get it good and tight. Okay. And then we'll tighten down this one, our locks on it. Good. Alright, so that's done. So now what we want to do is we can go on ahead and put in our brakes. Goes back on. Just want to make sure that you're lined up. And this is why when we took them off, we flexed them around a little bit. Let's see if I can get these guys to line up. There's 4 pads in here, so they have a tendency to move around a little bit. And we're good. Now we get this one started. And we can get this this one started. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing to the other side. Make sure our pads are lined up as good as they can be. Okay. And this one started. Okay, so now we're going to roll in our fender bolts. Get the other side. Getting lined up. Fender bolts are in. Okay, now all that we need to do is tighten up our brakes. We'll just run these in so we don't have to wind them in by hand. Just slightly. And we'll finish it off with a wrench or a ratchet. Okay, there's that. And away we go. Pump up the brakes, and our front is done. Ready for prime time. So now we're just going to have to move on to the back. Okay, so now we're ready to start in on the rear. The rear is fairly simple. You don't have to do too much. All you need to do, first of all, is I've got a hatch pin on this thing, and I just pull it out. It is just nothing more than a pin that you can flop over and lock. These are pretty handy. Okay. The next thing you need to do is, we'll put that over here, is you need to grab a 27mm wrench. And we just so happen to have one right here. So we're going to take this, and we just start yanking on this and pulling out this axle. Relatively simple. Unscrew the nut. And there's a washer in there. Put that next to our hatch pin. Keep everything there. Okay, then I just need to push out the axle, and I'm doing that with my finger, no big deal. And it comes right out. And everything is still kind of held in place. And the reason for that is the brake caliper. The brake caliper has got a rather large Allen on it. So we take our, and in this case it is a 10mm, I believe. And we're taking 10mm Allen driver. And let me just get that in there. And we pull this loose. Not much to it. And it comes out. So everything's here in a pile. Now we can take our caliper, and we can just kind of get it out of the way. There's a spacer like in the front, and the only thing you have to do with this is just slide the wheel over off of the push line, and the wheel is out. It's a super simple operation. Okay, so we'll take this over to the Rabaconda, and we will put on our new tire. This tire was just down to the wear marks. Okay. Okay, we've got our rear wheel on this, so let's go on ahead and we'll get the air out of this thing. And we'll break down the bead. Hopefully it won't be too much trouble. This in there. I think we can. Nope, don't need it. Fits exactly on the axle as it should. Okay. And what we want to do is we're going to get this guy in here and keep him as close as we can to the edge of the rim. That's the secret to all of this. It looks like it's right about there. Tighten this down. And here we go. Let's push this thing off the bead if we can. And it's gone. I believe we got it. Roll around a little bit. Just keep on going. Can. It's done. Done. This one was a little bit on the stuck side. It's been on there for quite a while actually. And finally, laughs a little bit right over the wire. Okay, so now we take this, we can pull it off, and flip it over. Maybe. Very good. Okay, and we'll do it again. Hopefully this is not too stuck. Try it here. Yeah, we're getting it. Very good. Okay. So now what we're going to do, first thing, is we'll get our tire monitoring up on over to the 90-degree angle. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put the duck head on. And we will slide the duck head onto the rim as far as it's going to go. Maybe it's going just a little bit more. Get the tire out of the way. And then what you want to do, once it's tight on there, you need to push that on just a little more. It's there, I guess, as it's going to get. Okay. Make sure it's on there. Yep, that's it. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to roll that down to about the 6 o'clock position. And then what we're going to do is take we've got some Dawn in and water, just a little soapy water. We just need to lubricate this bead a little bit to get it off, so we don't have to work so hard at it. And the reason that we want this at the 6 o'clock position is in case we need to push the tire in to the drop center. Because once what we'll do is we find the duck head here, and now we go in, get underneath it, and we need to get this to roll up. And if it's not in the drop center, it doesn't roll up very easy. So what we'll do is we'll just take this and we will push this into the drop center. And now we can take and get this tire iron wedged on over, and it hooks just like that. Okay, so now we are ready to go on ahead and start rolling off this tire. The only thing that we need to do is there's a pin that you put in here, which is sitting right here, and this will stop the tire from rolling. So here we go. There's the first one. Roll this around to their 6 o'clock position. Good enough. The head's still in place. So all that we have to do is, okay, now try this again with a little bit more lube on things. Here, this over here, this over here. Oh, that's much better. That's not near as tight. Got it. And there we go. Phew-wee. That was a shiver. Okay, so the first thing we need to do in this operation is we're going to use a T30 Torx bit, and we just unscrew this guy. It comes off, and there's a spring underneath it. There's a spring here. You just need to pull that off, and you can then take that off, and we'll put the spring back here and put it there so we don't lose it. And that leaves us with our tire mounting, our tire monitoring piece. Okay, so now we have reinstalled our battery in our tire monitoring system, our tire pressure monitoring system. And so all we have to do is we can stuff this back together, put our spring on there, put it in, get it started, and we will be using our T30 Torx bit, winding this down. It does not touch the wheel, it just kind of floats in place. It's close, but it doesn't touch. So that's nice and tight, and it moves around a little bit. So we're ready to put our tire on. So I'm going to go outside, which I've had it out in the sun cooking, and we will go on ahead and mount that tire. And it is an extremely hot day today. So this tire is really, really, really ready to go. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just doing this to be in front of the camera. What we need to do is put on some tire grease. And I'll show you this. So let me just put it on. You just use a brush here and you put on a thin coat of it. You'd be pretty sparing with it, just enough. It just gets it going. And you do both sides. Now it's a little, and it is nothing more than, let me show you what it is. This is Murphy's tire grease, tire mounting compound. Rabaconda sells their version of it. I'm sure it's pretty much the same thing. It might be green. I don't know what color it is, but I had this. I've always had this for a long time, and I've probably mounted a lot of tires with it, and I hardly used any of it. Okay, so now that's done. Now we have to determine which way the tire goes on. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but what you have to do is you look around, and this tells you the way it goes. Okay, so we'll look at this, and we see that the rear is pointing this way. That's wrong, because this is the left side of the bike, so it is going to be going that direction. So what we need to do is we're going to take this tire, turn it over. We're going to get our tire monitoring valve stem at 90 degrees. That's all we really care about. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get this tire on here, which basically is just a matter of rolling it on. Push this on. Most of the time you can do this by hand, but sometimes you need a little help, but we'll see. I've got a tire spoon here. We don't need the machine part to do this part. We shouldn't anyway. It's this one's a little tight. All right, we'll get it. Make sure we're in our drop center. Yeah. This out of the way. Get this on there, and that's all we needed to do. Okay, so now we're about 90 degrees over here. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get our duck head on. So what we need to do is get our tire here and get our duck head on, and get our duck head so it's just sitting on the rim, and tighten it down. Okay, and all we need to do is put our tire so we can see the duck head, and it comes out this way. Then we're going to push this on as far as we can by hand, and I have these tire holding tools. You can get them from Rabaconda. I got these off of Amazon. The Rabaconda ones are probably better quality, but this is what I had. And I had these. Okay, so now that's on. It's holding this in place. And we kind of want to just roll this tire on. So there's a pin that keeps this from moving. And it goes just like that. And all we need to do is take this and roll the tire on. Now I have to admit that the drop centers on this Concours aren't very deep, but it is what it is. And you just kind of keep on working it until the tire pops off. Done. Okay, put it down. We can now take off our duck head. We don't need it anymore. Maybe we can get it off. That, get out of the way here. That's that. It's out of the way. And all we need to do now is get this out of here, which we can do. Get our tire fairly centered on there, and we can go on ahead and put air in it. And I've got a gauge with something to hold on to it, so it makes it a little bit easier. And all we got to do is just start popping it up. Oh, and this one doesn't work without a valve stem. Let me get that on there. Or valve core, excuse me. Put our valve core in. And here we go. We're not centered yet, so we need to. Now, the tire is properly inflated, the bead's seated all the way around on both sides, and we are ready for balancing. So I'll move this over to the balancer and we'll go through that. So the first thing we need to do, once we get ready here, we are going to take and we need to put our balancing shaft in, and this guy goes right up against the bearing, up tight. There's a cone. There's another cone on the other side, right here. We put that on, and we put that up against our bearing. We make sure it's good and tight, and then we lock it down with a 3mm Allen wrench in this case. Okay. And it's tight. There's no movement in it whatsoever, but it can spin. Then we take this, and we will take this and pop it into our balancer. And we need to run these guys out. This is a nice extra wide wheel. And gotta make sure the bearings. Actually, I need to remove part of this. This guy has got an extra piece on it for whatever reason. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so now our wheel is spinning freely, and it's still warm because it was a hot day, and I can peel that sticker right off. And what we need to do, I have not removed the weights from this. I'm just going to see if we can find a heavy spot, if it has any. And it does. As you can see, it moved one way and now it's moving back. And our heavy spot, again, is going to be our tire monitoring system because it is heavy. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the weights now that were on it. We're going to get back to our heavy spot. Slow it down a little bit. And it's close to this, but it's not. Okay, so here's 180 from our heavy spot. So we're going to take a 20 ounce. This is my heaviest that I have, and I'll just take this and tap that on. Okay, and now let's try and see if we have another one. And it looks like we're still heavy there. So we'll take another Wait. Yeah, still in the same spot. So we're going to go, oops, pretty close to 180 degrees from that, and we'll put another weight on it and see what it does. That's looking pretty good. No matter where we go, it just sits there and doesn't want to move at all. That's beautiful. So it took us 30 grams or whatever. And, not grams, yeah, 30 grams, excuse me. And that's it. So it's all balanced, ready to go. So I will loosen up this while it's up here, which makes it a little easier once we get it down. I don't have to manipulate it so much. And this wheel is ready to go back on. So we are back at the motorcycle, and now what we need to do is put this thing back together. And it's relatively simple. You just need to get your tire kind of pushed into position here. And it takes a little bit of doing, but we'll get it. Okay, so on these, the best thing you can do is, our axle is all greased up. It's been greased up. You put your axle in, making sure you can see me, okay. We'll put the axle in, and what we're going to do, it's really hard to get the splines to line up. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's really hard. But what I do is I get the wheel up in the air, and I just use my feet to do that. And then I get the axle to go in and get it straight. And once I do that, I can then go on ahead and pull it toward the hub, and we'll get it to line up. It takes a little bit of doing, but it's not that hard. And then once you get that in, then you can get this thing to line up. Let me, okay. I just push it through, and see, look, it just fell into place. Now I can pull the axle back out and put on the brake. And it's just that simple. Don't struggle with trying to line it up and get it in there. I've done that before. Use the axle, get it all the way through, and it pops it right on. So now, all that we need to do, very simply, is just, let me move the camera so you can see. Make sure that I can, you see that? Well, a little hard. I think I'll just do it from the back here. Yeah. Okay, so now, all that we need to do is I'm going to take just a little spot of grease. I'm just putting a little spot of grease on the spacer so where it rides against the seal. We'll put that in there. Then what we'll do is very simply just take our caliper and get it so that the brake shoes are going, the brake pads are, gotta make, the best thing to do on this is, I'll show you, to get these to line up, you need to spread them apart a little bit. And I just use a straight screwdriver to do that. And the pads are pretty close together at the moment, but you just take it, put it in, and give it a bit of a twist. And that gets them far enough apart to where you can deal with them. Then you need to get the pads started. And once they're started, which I believe they are, then you can just go on ahead and hold this thing. And now I got to reach across and get the rest of it in. There you go. Done. This is in place. Pads are started. We've got, all that we need to do is put our nut on here. Need to push it in a little more. If you have a 27mm wrench, you get a 27mm socket, which is probably as good a way as any. But I just happen to have the wrenches, so we'll just screw this guy in. I'll do it this way. Then what we need to do is, once this is in, we need to put our bolt in our caliper to get it lined up. And that's in pretty far. And here's our bolt for our caliper. Find it. And just rotate this around until it catches. Screws in. And now you can tighten this one down. And that's that. We're tight. Okay. And now we can finish tightening up this. I'm doing this by the Braille method, but that's okay. Wouldn't be the first time. Just run this in. Okay. Now I can just take this and tighten it up. I can't even see what I'm doing. I'm just... I need to get... Let me move over here where I can actually see what I'm doing, because I need to line up the... This is not turning. Our axle is turning a little bit, so I need to take a large Allen. Right here. I think this is the right one. This might not be it. I've got a big one. Okay. And to hold the axle, we have a 14 millimeter Allen, and we'll use that along with our, we have a 1/2 inch drive, regular size ratchet, which makes life easy. Put this in. Okay. And we'll tighten up our axle. And I'm going to line it up on the first hole. Looks like this is it. I may have to work at aligning that. Let's see if I can get a better angle at it. Oh, a little more. A little tiny bit more. I'm just inching it to it where it lines up. And then that guy goes in, snap it over. Let me push it in a little more. Snap it over, done. We are 100% done with our tire installation and our TPS new batteries. So that concludes our video on how to not only change your tires on this Concours 14, but to the tire pressure monitoring system. We need new batteries in it. So those batteries have been replaced. We've gone through that. We've mounted our new tires up. So this bike is ready to ride again. Kind of a necessity for me because my other motorcycle has a problem and it's going to be long-winded to fix it. So anyway, we'll get to that in future videos. But the Concours is ready to ride. It will, we can throw down some miles on it. It's a great motorcycle. This bike's got 88,000 miles on it, and it's just been pretty much flawless. Other than a leaky valve cover seal, that's about the only thing that's ever really gone wrong, and I just needed to replace it at a sooner date. It went for like 15 years without any real problems. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.